Hi everyone, so my name is Mikaela Troxell, and today I will be doing a presentation on a survivor of sex trafficking for my signature assignment in diversity and inclusion. The topic that I chose was gender, and the case study that I chose was trafficked. 3 survivors of human trafficking share their story. So this is just my table of contents. So in order to fully understand what this young woman's story of survival means, we have to first understand what human trafficking is and the risk factors for human trafficking. So human trafficking is defined as the act of trading, selling, or using humans for commercial exploitation. Millions of girls and women are enslaved and trafficked for sexual purposes annually. Approximately 75% of girls who are trafficked and enslaved are used for sexual exploitation. The people who are at risk for being trafficked are women and girls who are living in poverty or living in places with large gender inequality or in nations that are in great political turmoil. Many women live to share their devastating horrors and experience. Through the disturbing details of their experience, we can learn how to prevent human trafficking and work to dismantle the commercial exploitation of other humans. So who is this case study about? This case study is about Luisa Karmova, and the names are changed for privacy reasons, but she left her home in order to find work, and when she settled in Osh at 22 years old, she believed she was being hired as a waitress. However, when she arrived there, she was trafficked and held against her will for 18 months. Upon arriving to the city for her new job, Karmova states that she was held in an apartment where they took away her passports and they photographed her again for new employment documents to be registered as a waitress. And she states that it felt strange, but she was so desperate for work she believed them. And with no government documents, Karmova was given a fake passport and shipped off to Dubai, where she was forced to be a sex slave. She was able to escape the nightmare when she was arrested, but when she was arrested, she was jailed for a year because she had fake documents. So a new nightmare began when she was jailed for a year, and then she became unemployable due to that being on her record, and now she's impoverished and homeless, which led her to turn to sex work again. But today Karmova works with agencies to prevent this from happening to other young girls. What diversity and inclusion challenges has this person faced? Use specific terminology. So Karmova faced a plethora of diversity and inclusion challenges, the main themes being socioeconomic status and gender. Karmova was at risk for being sex trafficked due to her coming from poverty and needing means to be able to provide for herself and her son. Karmova, being a woman and a single mother who is facing poverty, left her vulnerable to sex trafficking. And since Karmova is a female, it also left her vulnerable to sex trafficking and violent crimes against women. 70% of trafficking victims are women or girls. What is the most impressive, surprising, or inspirational part of this person's story? I thought that it was so inspiring that Karmova had the courage to speak out against her abusers, and she was able to get 3 of them arrested. I also thought it was very impressive that Karmova was able to pull herself out of poverty and sex work despite facing immense disadvantages and it being a seemingly impossible feat. It is motivational that Karmova is brave enough to work to stop the industry that tried to break and destroy her. After living through hell, Karmova had the compassion and grace to trust again and is now married and living a fulfilled life with a motivational partner. What is one important thing you learned by researching this person's story? Through Karmova's story, I learned why impoverished females are at such a high risk for sex trafficking and how privileged I am to not be vulnerable to trafficking due to my socioeconomic status. People who come from lower socioeconomic status are more vulnerable to trafficking due to their desperation to find work. It is hard for those from poverty to escape trafficking because it is incredibly challenging to become financially stable after escaping sex slavery. Sex slavery is more common than we are aware of. What steps can be taken to ensure that people do not have similar experiences in the future? As a society, it is our duty to know the signs of sex trafficking so we can stop it or report suspicious activities. We also need to understand what groups are more at risk so that we can try to protect these groups. Improving human trafficking victim identification is another way we can stop sex trafficking. And it is important for us to always remain cautious and vigilant of our surroundings and also be cautious of suspicious jobs and international work. We need to create safe homes and programs to help survivors integrate into society again and join the workforce. Conclusion. Karmova is a victim of human trafficking. She was deceived into traveling for a job in order to escape poverty. However, once she arrived to the job, it was a hoax, and she was forced to work internationally as a sex slave. She was abused with hot irons and forced to bring certain amounts of money, often having little to nothing left over. Since she had no money, it was impossible to escape. She was able to escape when she was arrested, and she spent a year in prison despite being the victim in the situation. Then she was stuck back in the lifestyle of sex work due to being a single mother struggling to make ends meet. Against all odds, through strength and courage, Karmova was able to become an outreach advocate and warn young girls about the dangers of sex trafficking. She states, "My job with Purdurga is to make sure that the girls stay clean and are safe, and if they are in pain, I take them to regular hospitals for checkups." Karmova believes that the key to ending sex trafficking is education. Some questions that I have just in general would be, why is sex trafficking such a large issue given how many resources we have to combat this issue? Could there be a pipeline of au pair to human trafficking? I thought that this was an interesting question because au pair laws don't have laws on minimum wages required, maximum amount of hours working, and usually it is an international service. So I feel like this would be a large pipeline and a potentially dangerous situation. And the next question I have is, if a majority of victims were men, would there be more effort to end human trafficking? And why are those who are living in poverty most at risk for human trafficking? And why are undocumented citizens more at risk for human trafficking? And then next, here are my references. Thank you for listening. Bye.